Hey, welcome back, everybody. Today I want to talk a little bit about finding your leadership voice and what that means, and go through a couple steps about how I recommend you do that. It's not a quick process. It takes a little bit of time, but let me first set this up. Throughout my Army career and also working with coaches and often with players, you hear the phrase, "I lead by example." The implication being that I don't need to be vocal. I'm just not built that way. So what I do should be enough to lead other people. And, it sounds great. It sounds humble. It sounds reassured. I'm disciplined. I put in the work. I am an example worth following. That's what you should understand, or the takeaway from saying I lead by example. But for a lot of people, it becomes a limitation. It becomes a place they hide from the harder parts of leadership. Now, let me explain. First of all, leading by example is absolutely necessary. It's the price of admission to leadership. You have to learn how to lead yourself before you can lead others. So it's a necessary part of leadership. You've got to learn how to build your own habits, set high standards for yourself, put in great effort, have composure. All those things, those are non-negotiable. You absolutely need to have those as a leader. But the problem is not about leading by example. The problem is stopping there. That the extent of your leadership is only what I do. And that's the trap. When you say leading by example, it can become a barrier to doing the hard things. Let's just take a couple examples. If you only lead by example, you might be more likely to avoid a difficult conversation because I'm modeling what right looks like. It's natural for people just to follow me. Or skipping direct feedback as a leader because they should just be watch me and follow me, and that should be sufficient. Or not diving into difficult things that are happening as part of your culture. I'm showing them the standard, therefore that should be enough. Now, that's action. That's personal action. You are demonstrating some things, but that's the floor. And leadership is often about more than just personal action, but it's also about communication. Action alone, while exemplary, it's incomplete. Because at the end of the day, leaders need to be able to influence others. And influence requires both action and communication. So you have to not only do the right thing, but you have to call others to the right thing. It's not just about modeling this standard. It's about communicating why it matters, why it's important, why you doing the right thing isn't just about you, but it's about the greater culture, it's about the greater team. And you have to walk the walk and find the words to help others walk the walk as well. Leading by example is really just half of the equation. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that voice equals volume. That's not true. Finding your voice does not mean becoming necessarily louder or more vocal or more rah-rah. Some of the most powerful leadership voices out there are quiet ones. If loud and demonstrative isn't who you are, then forcing it comes off as fake, and people have very strong radar to fake. You don't want to come off as fake or disingenuous. All kinds of people can lead, both introverts and extroverts, very vocal people, loud folks, whatever. But you have to find out what is going to work for you. Voice isn't volume. It's just finding the right voice that's going to help you be the most influential leader that you can. And that takes time. Finding your voice means finding yourself as a leader. You have to learn who you are, not who you think you should be, or not who you emulate, but who you are. You have to learn how to communicate in a way that best works for you. You have to learn your personal superpowers, right? And that takes time. What works for one leader won't work for another. You can study Wooden or Eisenhower or Nick Saban, and you should study them. But the goal isn't to become them, it's to become the best leader that you can be. So here's what I recommend, or here's what I see as the process to finding your leadership voice. It's in 3 steps, and they can overlap, and each of them takes a little bit different time. But first is modeling. And that really is experimentation. So as you become a leader, or you're finding your legs as a leader, you have to experiment with what is going to work for you. And that starts with emulation. It starts with modeling. I mean, we do it from the time we're kids, right? We model our parents. We have coaches at different levels. We have teachers. You don't find that voice in a vacuum. You borrow it first. Take it for a test ride. See what works for you. Study leaders you admire. Try their cadence, methods, convictions. Most leaders either mimic forever or refuse to mimic at all, and both are mistakes. So you have to start by modeling. What modeling will do for you is get you into what is step 2, which is self-awareness. Finding what works for me. Through this experimentation process, you discover what fits and what doesn't. What sounds authentic coming from you versus what sounds borrowed coming from somebody else. And this is where leading yourself comes back in. You have to reflect on these different things. You have to get some type of feedback from others, whether those are people that you lead or the people that you are emulating, and just kind of narrow it down into those areas, the communication styles, then the techniques and the different things that are going to be helpful for you to learn what your leadership voice best sounds like. And the third step is refinement. Always learning. Leaders must continue to learn, must continue to try to get better. Finding a voice isn't a destination, it's a practice. So leaders who plateau are the ones that decide they've got it all figured out. They don't need any more help. They can't learn from other people, and they just start to fade away because they're not constantly improving. And the ones who keep growing treat their voice as a living thing. It might be sharper at 50 than 30. It might be sharper at 60 than at 50. Who knows? You should continue to improve, which means that you can constantly be on an improvement arc as you continue to lead. So you have to go from example to influence. You enter the leadership realm by learning to lead yourself, by modeling others, and by demonstrating your leadership qualities by leading by example. But in order to get influence other players, other leaders, you have to influence up in a lot of cases. Leading by example gets you in the room, but finding your voice gets you the team. Leaders who win aren't necessarily just doing the right things, they're calling others to do the right things as well, in a way that's unmistakably theirs. Action plus communication. Example plus voice. That's leadership. And as always, culture wins.